Hey, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to look at how we can work with Toggle and also build our own style, which we'll use to create a checkbox. So let's get straight in. So Toggle allows us to represent whether the current state of the UI is either true or false. We tend to have to pass it a binding since this component reads and writes from a source of truth. To learn more about state and check out my video about state in SwiftUI. So now let's create a state property called isSelected, and it will be the source of truth for our view. So now we need to use our toggle, which will read from our source of truth and also write to it. So let's add a toggle and a stat to see this happening. So when you create an instance of your toggle, you'll notice that you have different possible configurations that you could use. So you can see here that you can use the title and the title key. So the difference between these is title is just a string and title keys if you want to use a key within your localization. You also have the option here to actually use the label property, which allows you to wrap your own custom view, which we'll get to. But what we want to use is just the first option where you can define a string and bind it to your source of truth, which in our case is the isSelected property. So let's hit enter on the first one, and then we'll just type in some text. And then to actually bind this to our source of truth, we need to use the $ on our state property. So let's do that now. Cool. So now what's going to happen is that whenever this gets turned on or off, whenever it changes to true or false, it will automatically update our isSelected because we've used a $ to bind it to this property, and also it will read the value within isSelected if it needs to. So what we're going to do now to see this changing is actually add in some text below that shows this. So let's do that now. Cool. So what we're saying here is that depending on the value within isSelected, we're going to change the string to either show one or the other. So if I just run this in the SwiftUI preview, you'll notice that when we turn this on, it says that I am turned on, and when I turn it off, it turns it off. So that's all. That's also, notice how on the left hand side I have this label here. So what if I actually want to remove this label? Well, you may be thinking that in order to achieve this, what you want to do is actually just turn it into an empty string. And this does work and remove the label, but if you notice, our switch is still pinned to the right hand side, so we can't actually easily position this if we wanted to. So in order to hide the label, what we need to do is actually use the labels hidden modifier. So let's go onto our toggle and use the label hidden modifier. And now you'll notice that our label is actually in the center of the screen, so we can actually position this and align it wherever we want to more easily. Now I discussed as well how you could have your own custom view within the label part here, and we're going to look into that now. So what we're going to do is just copy this and then paste it, and then we're going to delete the toggle. But this time when you type it out, toggle, what you want to do is use the last option here called is on. So notice that when you're using this and you want to add in your own custom view for the label, you don't actually have a string here like you do on these two. You first of all have to bind it to the isSelected. So let's choose that, and then we're going to say here isSelected, and then on the label we're going to hit enter, and we now get this closure where we're able to add in our own custom view. So let's delete this text because we don't want this, and instead in here we're going to actually add in a label and change the text and SF symbol on it. So let's just do that now. So as you can see here, we're going to change the text to say whether it's on or off, and we're also going to change the symbol variant, so the type of symbol it is, if it's a filled symbol, if it's a normal symbol like so. If you want to learn more about SF symbols, I actually have a video called SF symbols in SwiftUI that go into more detail about this. So let's actually run this and actually do this, and you can see when we turn this on, our light bulb turns on and the text changes within our label, and when we turn it off, it also updates as well. But we can actually go a step further and we can actually customize our toggles by setting a toggle style. So by default, the toggle style is this switch, but if we wanted to, we could actually get a toggle style where we get a button. So let's actually copy this, and if we set the toggle style, so on the toggle we'll just say dot toggle style, if we set this to be button, you'll notice that the toggle has now centered on the screen, and our SF symbol, so our label with our SF symbol is now within acting as our toggle. So if I actually tap this, you can now see that it's turned into a button and it's telling us that it is on. And if I actually tap it again, you can see that it's turned it off and we don't get the border around this. But we can actually take this a step further and actually create our own custom toggle styles. So for example, if you wanted to, you could create like a Twitter love heart effect, or you could create a checkbox, which is what we're going to look into now. So in order to do this, what we need to do is do Command N on our keyboard to create a new Swift file. And within the Swift file, I'm going to call this toggle plus checkbox style. And then within this file, what we're going to do in order to create our own custom styles, we need to use the toggle style protocol. So I'm going to type this out and then break it down. So you can see here that we have our toggle style, and by using this on our strut, we now get this function which allows us to access the configuration for our toggle. So if I was to actually type out here configuration dot, you'll see that we're able to access the is on value for the toggle. We're also able to access the binding as well, and we're able to access whatever label is within our toggle. But what we want to do is we actually want to change our SF symbol. So we want to have a checkbox that's filled and not filled depending on whether the toggle is on or off. So let's actually add this in now and then break it down. So what we're using here is the SF symbol checkmark.square, and it's really important that you make sure that you have system name beforehand. And in the symbol variant, we're checking to see if the configuration is on, then we want it to fill, or else we want it to be none. So if we actually run this in the SwiftUI preview now, what we need to do is we actually need to put this and apply it onto our toggle. So let's actually use this style on our view. So let's just go in here and we'll create a brand new toggle in a group. So let's do that now. So you should see that you now have a checkbox here. So it's worth noting as well that for us to use this checkbox style, we actually want to use the toggle where you want to specify a label on it, because we don't want to have a custom label within it. We just want to have we don't want to have anything. We just want to have the view that we're using within our style, which is the image. So let's see if this works. So if we tap on it, you'll notice that nothing happens. And the reason why this isn't working is because we've said in our style that we actually want this to be an image. Now with images, they don't actually register any actions when you tap on them. So when you tap on an image, nothing happens. So in order to fix this, what we need to do is actually put our image within a button. So what I'm going to do is actually just type this out and then we'll break it down. Cool. So what we've said here is that we've now got a button, and when someone actually taps on the button, we're going to toggle whether the configuration for our toggle is on or off. So this will change it to either true or false when you tap on the button. Then within our label, we'll represent the current value of our toggle by changing the symbol variant to either fill or none, depending on someone taps on it. Now, because our image is within a button, what's going to happen is we're going to get the default system tint, which is this blue. So if you tap on it, you see that it works. But you may be wondering, how do I change the color of this if I don't want this to be blue? Well, all we need to do is on our button, just set the tint to whatever color we want. So if we was to set this to black, like so, you'll notice that we now get a black checkbox like that, and we still get the nice animation for free. So similar to what I spoke about in my previous video about styles in the progress view and the label in SwiftUI, we actually want to follow the SwiftUI style guides by using the dot notation to create our checkbox style. So let's actually type out an extension that allows us to do this. So what we're saying here is that on our toggle, where it is a checkbox style, we want to create a computed property called checklist that's static, that allows us to create an instance of our toggle checkbox style. So now let's go to our content view, and then we're going to create a duplicate of this. And rather than us creating an instance of our modifier directly like so, we're just going to delete this and then type out dot. And now we're able to access the checklist variable that we just declared before. So now if we run this in our SwiftUI preview, you'll notice that we have two checkboxes that both look and act the exact same way. So like I said before, this is just down to preference. If you're not really too bothered about this, then cool. But if you want to follow more of a SwiftUI like kind of style like this, then you want to create those extensions, which I don't feel is a lot of code. Cool. So that's everything in this video. If you enjoyed it, I really appreciate to hear your feedback in the comment section below. Also as well, if you leave a comment, feedback below by leaving a comment in the comment section. Also as well, if you haven't already, I really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the notification bell to get updates whenever I release a new video. That's everything from me. I'll catch you on a bit. Deuces.